You're listening to Uptown Radio. It's Monday, December 13th. I'm Louise Vallée.
And I'm Rebecca Robinson. In Jersey City, a neighborhood Facebook group have become the first line of defense for a community plagued with dog nappings.
A scammer was trying to extort me. I was ready to give him how much ever money he wanted.
During COVID, many subway musicians came to perform for an empty venue. They weren't doing it for the money, but for something even more important.
If I could see one person that could get the message, dancing is happiness, I'll be okay.
The Bronx Zoo's holiday lights are bringing Jingle Bell joy back to the city with festive tunes, stilt walkers, and nearly 300 animal lanterns.
Are you having fun out here?
Yeah.
What's that?
A Christmas tree.
All that and more on Uptown Radio. But first, the news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Residents in half a dozen states are facing gut-wrenching storm recovery in the coming weeks heading into Christmas. The sheer damage from a swarm of tornadoes to strike the Midwest and South on Friday yet to be fully revealed. So far, the confirmed death toll is nearing 80, at least 64 in Kentucky alone. More than 100 people have yet to be accounted for. President Biden plans to visit Kentucky Wednesday. NPR's Brian Mann has more on the carnage and the united response to it in Kentucky.
Lines of searchers and dogs are working their way systematically through a neighborhood in Dawson Springs, Kentucky.
Yeah, we checked it. They lifted it on the backside, back corner.
They're looking for signs of life or remains of people killed by the tornado. Dave Jardin is with the volunteer group that aids search efforts after major disasters. He says the tornado that tore through here was uniquely destructive.
This is probably the worst. It's pretty bad. Everything is down to ground level just about. We volunteered to take as much of this off the locals as we could just because they're overwhelmed right now to begin with.
Efforts are also underway to restore power and other basic services. President Biden declared a major disaster to accelerate federal aid. Brian Mann, NPR News, Dawson Springs, Kentucky.
New Yorkers are adjusting to a new mask mandate. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports all indoor public spaces now require masks or confirmation of vaccination against COVID-19.
New York has seen a jump in COVID cases, about 50% since the Thanksgiving holiday. In response, Governor Kathy Hochul announced a mask mandate lasting through at least mid-January.
It doesn't have to be that big a deal. It truly doesn't. Just asking people to do something that is common sense, that we believe will help save lives.
New York City has announced a vaccine mandate for private employers at the end of the month, but will also enforce the statewide mask mandate. Quill Lawrence, NPR News, New York.
USA Gymnastics, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and their insurers will pay $380 million to the hundreds of women sexually abused by former team doctor Larry Nassar. NPR's Tom Goldman has details.
Along with the $380 million, plaintiffs also are praising the non-monetary parts of the settlement. Those include positions for survivors on the USA Gymnastics Board and Health and Safety Committees and enhanced safety measures at local clubs. Survivors lawyer John Manley says the settlement is important, but there's still work to do.
The fact that no one at the FBI has been indicted, no one at USOPC has been indicted, and no one at USA Gymnastics has been indicted for what was a criminal conspiracy to protect this man and hide his crimes is an obscenity.
Manley says in the coming weeks, he and his clients will address what he calls the Justice Department's systemic failure in the case of Larry Nassar, who's serving a de facto life sentence for his crimes. Tom Goldman, NPR News.
The Dow closes down more than 300 points. This is NPR News.
From Columbia Radio News in New York, I'm Chantal Vaca. New York State's mask mandate goes into effect today. The new rules require customers and workers to be masked inside of all public places that don't require proof of vaccination. Governor Kathy Hochul announced the new rules as a preemptive response to rising cases and uncertainty surrounding the Omicron variant.
I do have faith in New Yorkers. I believe that the vast majority want to do what's right. They want to put this pandemic behind us. They want to make sure we never have to go back to the days of being in lockdown where you couldn't go to work, you couldn't go to schools, you couldn't go to worship on a weekend. And so we're not going to do that.
Rikers Island is experiencing its deadliest year since 2016. On Friday, Malcolm Boatwright became the 15th detainee to die there. His death comes just days after a federal monitor was assigned to oversee reforms at the troubled jail complex. Boatwright was being held as he awaited the results of a psych exam. The cause of death is still being investigated. Fordham Law professor Zephyr Teachout has ended her campaign for New York State Attorney General. Teachout pulled out of the race shortly after incumbent Letitia James ended her own campaign for governor. In a statement released Sunday, Teachout said, quote, "I strongly support Attorney General James in her re-election and her critical fights to deliver justice for the people of New York." The MTA has announced a new plan to incentivize tap-and-go ridership on subways and buses. Under the proposed plan, riders who pay through the Omni app will receive unlimited rides once they hit $33 in fares in a week. The MTA plans to completely phase out the classic yellow Metro cards by 2023. However, some have criticized Omni as less accessible for older riders and the 11% of New Yorkers who don't have traditional bank accounts. This is Chantal Vaca, Columbia Radio News.
This is Uptown Radio. I'm Louise Vallée.
And I'm Rebecca Robinson. For the first time in its history, New York City is testing a whole new system for responding to 911 mental health emergency calls. Be Heard will have mental health professionals responding to calls instead of the police. The pilot program, which launched in Harlem, is a partnership between the NYPD, Fire Department, and NYC Health and Hospitals. Chantal Vaca reports.
The Be Heard program, which stands for the Behavioral Health Emergency Assistance Response Division, began responding to calls in Harlem last June. Here's how Sean Redding, spokesman for the Be Heard program, describes it.
When someone picks up a phone to call 911, it's because they want help right now. It could be something they perceive as life-threatening. It could be, just they absolutely don't know what to do. They want someone to come in minutes. What we're doing with Be Heard is piloting what a health-centered response can look like at those specific emergency moments.
A Be Heard team consists of a mental health professional along with a paramedic or emergency medical technician. And after the Be Heard team arrives, the care doesn't have to end there. They can make a referral to the East Harlem Support and Connection Center. The facility offers follow-up care and a short-term residential stay for people with mental health and substance use needs. Leah Miller is the assistant program director at the Support and Connection Center. She says keeping the care voluntary is most important.
We don't want to force anyone into a service. We don't want to force anyone into any kind of referral or anything. The goal is to just meet the client at whatever stage of change they're at, and then facilitate from there based on the motivation of the guest.
Christina Sparrock is on the advisory committee for Be Heard. She says one way to improve the program is to expand its dispatch hours from 16 to 24 hours a day.
So now you're telling me, because I have a mental health condition, for those 8 hours, for that time, I got to put my brain on check. You can't control a mental health condition. So that means the police are going to get involved.
Many people living in Harlem would rather avoid getting the police involved. They fear it puts their safety at risk. Harlem resident Barbara Tandy says she'd rather talk to a friend or relative instead.
Because people want them dead. You want them dead. And I'd be fearful. I don't want to see no one get harmed. I don't want to see nobody die. They'd be a last resort.
In the case of a non-emergency, there are other ways the city is providing mental health support. Be Heard spokesman Sean Redding says there are other numbers to call.
So if you're not sure, do you need an ambulance right away? If you know it's a mental health related thing, call NYC Well. Call 1-88-NYC-WELL, and you can talk to a trained counselor and you can get their guidance on what the best thing to do is. And you might even be able to get in-person help.
As Be Heard continues testing its program in Harlem, the city is focused on hiring more social workers to bring Be Heard to the Bronx. Chantal Vaca, Columbia Radio News.
Your doggy doors. According to The Economist, puppy shortages have created a crime wave as dog napping is on the rise across the country. But in Jersey City, a neighborhood Facebook group is fighting back, helping to reunite neighbors with lost pets. Sarah Thomas-Oxtoby reports.
In early November, Jersey City Heights resident Apurva LeMay posted camera footage to the Facebook group seeking help. Surveillance showed someone approaching her balcony and fleeing with her Australian Shepherd, Masca.
At around 8:25, 8:26 p.m., we can see a figure coming to my balcony. The second video was 3 doors down. A guy has a video of now Muska running really fast and somebody running behind him really fast.
LeMay received a phone call from someone claiming to have Masca, attempting to collect a reward.
Around 11:30, I get a message saying that I found your dog. He was not ready to send any information about the dog or any picture or any information. He's just interested in the reward. He basically started harassing me.
She said she couldn't understand why someone would take her dog.
I don't know what the intention was of this person, or the person just had lost it, probably had too many drinks. Not sure.
The next morning, Masca was spotted just a few blocks away from LeMay's home.
We got a call from this dog walker saying that she probably can see Muska tied to a fence with chain. And she just described him, and she said that she actually had seen a social media post of Muska, and she thinks this is our dog.
After learning Masca's location, LeMay went to get her dog.
Now that I have a child as well as a dog, I can definitely say this, that when a scammer was trying to extort me, I was ready to give him how much ever money he wanted. So it's funny how they think of this as a property, but it's definitely like a child. And what we went through was a loss of a child, almost.
LeMay told me the police were not helpful and that she broke down in tears at the station before they would file a report.
The only thing that helped was the community.
Linda D. Esposito, lifelong Heights resident and local dog walker.
Owners need to be cognizant of the fact that this is going on. And when I was growing up, you could let kids play outside unsupervised, but now we're such a mobile society, you can't do that anymore. And same thing with dogs. If they're in the backyard, you have to keep your eye on them.
Under current law, dogs are considered property. The gravity of their theft is assessed by their purchase value. According to the Canine Journal, only 15 states address the theft of dogs in their criminal codes. New Jersey is not one of them. Sarah Thomas Oxtoby, Columbia Radio News.
What goes up must come down, and as Uptown Radio's Elliot Chaparelli reports, that includes skyscrapers.
That's the sound of the Mina Plaza buildings coming down on the outskirts of Abu Dhabi just last year in a video by the Khaleej Times. It was one of the tallest buildings that has ever been demolished and the tallest to be demolished by implosion. But most buildings go out with a whimper, not a bang. In dense cities like New York, the more dramatic modes of demolition, like implosion and wrecking ball, are illegal. So how do older buildings, particularly skyscrapers, come down? Douglas Woodward knows. He's a professor at Columbia's Graduate School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation, and was also one of the urban designers tasked with developing Lincoln Center. He says in most cases, demolition is more like deconstruction.
It's a difficult thing to do, demolition. That's why you have to actually get a special permit from the buildings department.
He says in New York, most buildings that need to go are enveloped in scaffolding and taken down piece by piece, starting from the top. That's how JP Morgan's headquarters at 270 Park Avenue was demolished to make room for a taller building with more modern office space. The original building was the tallest in the world ever to be demolished at just over 700 feet. Nikolai Fedak founded a website called YIMBY, an acronym for Yes in My Backyard. It promotes development.
I think what JP Morgan Chase has done with 270 Park Avenue was really ahead of the curve, and I think transforming or demolishing these outdated buildings, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Fedak is in favor of adding more super tall buildings over 1,000 feet to New York City's skyline, and Woodward agrees.
To be a 21st century city, you need both height and size. And in order to do that, you've got to do these teardowns.
Woodward says in many cases it's more economical to rebuild rather than to retrofit.
So there will be more teardowns. And also with super talls and things like that, it's become more profitable to actually do a teardown.
Super talls are a fairly new invention, though, and none has ever been taken down. Woodward says they're built to last longer than their shorter predecessors, but they're so new, there's no plan in place for how to demolish them. One of the first super talls to ever be built sits at the bottom of Central Park. It's a skinny building with thousands of square windows that's 15 times taller than it is wide. And the internet hates it. Louisa Whitmore has amassed almost 400,000 followers on TikTok talking about how much she hates 432 Park Avenue.
A lot of the comments I get are, how can this be demolished? When are they going to demolish this?
Woodward has thought about that too.
432 Park is the only building I think that might have a problem, in the future and actually get taken down.
Residents of the building are suing the developer over maintenance problems, including flooding, electrical issues, and even motion sickness on the upper floors.
It's not unsafe to swing back and forth by 3 feet, but humans don't like to do that.
No matter what, though, as office designs change and cities' construction needs transform, more super tall buildings will go up, and eventually we'll have to figure out a way to take them down. Elliot Chaparelli, Columbia News Radio.
The tattoo industry in New York City has become increasingly saturated in recent years, but black tattoo artists remain underrepresented. Rebecca Robinson reports.
After the summer of 2020, the tattoo industry faced a reckoning much like the rest of the country, confronting racism that exists in the field. While that conversation focused on the tattooing of darker skin, black tattoo artists still remain quite underrepresented in tattoo shops. July data from Ibis World show close to 39,000 tattoo artists employed in the United States. Statistics from Zippia also show that only 12% of tattoo artists identify as Black or African American. I spoke with several black tattoo artists to figure out how they've navigated the industry.
My name is Salt, the Mohawk in New York.
For him, the tattoo industry has felt like his calling.
I didn't feel like I was living until I started tattooing. I was alive, but I was bored. But once I began tattooing, it changed my life, and it opened up doors that would have never opened had it not been for being a tattoo artist.
Owning a shop can also create new opportunities to establish themselves in a scene which is essential for black artists in a saturated market.
This one is just built off of, the success that I've had with this shop is only based on reputation. It's only based on what I've done in the last, I would say, 7 or 8 years professional. We really make people feel like they belong here, they become a part of the family by the time they leave. And it's because we put in the work. You can never really master this industry because it always changes.
For artists, making the transition from tattooing in a home studio by moving to a shop can open up new possibilities and networks to work on their craft.
My name is Zay, a tattoo artist in Brooklyn, New York.
Zay has been tattooing for over the last 2 years from a home studio and is looking to transition into a different environment. This new opportunity becomes a stepping stone to expanding her skills and client base by moving to a shop in Manhattan, especially after working to build her clientele through word of mouth.
I'd been seeking, the peer experience of tattooing because I've been working by myself, and now I have the opportunity to tattoo in the shop. And I would actually be afforded the opportunity to be the first queer black woman working for the entire syndicate of the 3 shops that they have.
Bringing more representation comes at a moment when clients, especially with darker skin, are looking for someone with the demonstrated skill and knowledge to take on those projects while providing a sense of comfort.
There are not a lot of black tattoo artists in New York City, at least not commercialized or popularly known. So it's difficult in a sense because there are a lot of people that are seeking black tattoo artists. So I feel like the industry is shifting in a sense where I think the owner saw me come in okay, well, I have a lot of black people that come in here and they want to be tattooed by a black person. It's less of a quota reaching type of thing and more of this is what the consumer wants.
In creating a successful reputation for themselves within the tattooing community, these artists continue to create space for future black tattoo artists to become successful as well. Rebecca Robinson, Columbia Radio News.
It's my first Christmas in New York City, and I still haven't seen that big tree that everyone seems to be talking about.
Well, it's not too late. The Rockefeller Center Christmas tree and its ice skating rink sees 125 million people every holiday season. Even with COVID concerns, people are still packing in to catch a glimpse of the biggest tree they've ever seen. Leanna Norman phones the bustling ice skating rink and captures the holiday cheer.
Thank you for calling the Rockefeller Center Information Line, your connection to finding out the latest on upcoming events and promotions. It's that wonderful time of the year. The iconic rink at Rockefeller Center is now open.
Christmas photos.
So why are you at the tree tonight? What brought you here?
It's Christmas.
Right, it's Christmas.
Because
we have nothing else
to see
to
the beautiful lights and not be able to breathe with all the people on top of us.
This is my first time. This is my first time.
I've been to the tree every year, but we used to be able to get much closer.
This
but
is
now
my
there's
third
barricades.
time. There's barricades, so we can't get close anymore.
I don't know how much times I've been here, but maybe the second.
Ted, tell your story.
I'm trying to help her.
All right, so I'm 50 years old. I've probably been here 48 times. We'll discount COVID for one and one other one. I actually got engaged to my ex-wife at the ice rink here by the tree. We had the entire ice skating rink cleared. I did this back in 2002, I think. Now it is actually a package that they do. Back when I did it, I paid $40 for it.
Girlfriend, and he keeps telling this story. This is like the
It was
How are you
really
gonna
cute.
top it? How
It
are
was
you gonna
really
top it?
cute.
This went
Oh, I could never top that. The ice skating rink, the Saturday before Christmas, I had it cleared to do a proposal.
Because you're divorced.
It really seems like everyone's got a story with this tree.
You know what? I never thought I'd have something in common with a Christmas tree, but actually this year's tree came from Maryland, just like me.
Street performers are a common sight in New York City, but at the height of the pandemic, riders disappeared along with a lot of subway entertainers. Some went online and others stopped coming altogether, but busker Jazza Gilo stayed true to his craft. Anahita Khanna reports from the subway station that's kept the music going.
If you've lived in New York City, you know it's not silent. It's 9 p.m. on a Friday evening at the Herald Square station. And who's the center of attention? Saxophonist Jazza Gilo. The clock reads 12 minutes more until the Downtown 1 train arrives. The station is bustling with people running to and fro in all directions. Some walk down the stairs, some up. Exhausted commuters surround Gilo while he melodiously plays George Michael's Careless Whisper. Some take a quick video and leave, while others stay around for a number of songs. Subway stations in New York are a performance venue like no other. Before the pandemic began, over 5 million people would ride the subway every day. But by April 2020, subway ridership had dropped to a fraction of what it was before, a mere 300,000 per day.
Oh, during the COVID, it was as quiet as desert. So quiet. Maybe you can see 1 or 2 people, but I keep playing, you know. I just come here and maybe do like a practice too, you know.
Busking is how Gilo earns most of his income. But money was only a part of the equation for him. He had a bigger message.
If I could see one person that could get the message, dancing is happiness, I'll be okay, because at that moment people were dying. Come on now. A lot of people. Maybe somebody needs something that can say a message to him or her. So if they can see this message and hear the song, it goes a long way to help them.
Buskers like him became the essential workers we forgot about. They never left and used their music to provide comfort to people during the pandemic.
The happiness on people's face, it's about that. You know, I feel contented when I see them happy too. You know, like that's the money in my pocket when I see people smiling.
For the past 6 years, Gilo has made the daily trek into the city from Staten Island to perform for Manhattan's subway riders, allowing them to pause for a second and enjoy.
It's so creative. It's really entertaining and fun. It brings a little happiness to your commute home at night.
Subway ridership is halfway up, still not at pre-pandemic levels. But Agilo continues to spread his message, one song at a time. For Columbia Radio News, I'm Anahita Khanna.
The holidays are a feel-good time, and schools are looking for ways to make sure everyone feels included in the celebrations. My co-host Rebecca Robinson spoke with a librarian from the South Bronx to see what they are doing this season.
Rosanna Gulasano is a librarian at PS11 in Highbridge in the Bronx. Through a donation program, she makes sure her students have access to coats, books, and even gifts during the holidays. Rosanna, thank you for being here with us. To get us started, I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about how your donation program got started and how it's evolved since.
I realized that it was winter and I assumed that children were warm. Well, that's not the world of the Highbridge. That is not the world of the South Bronx, the PS11 community, where many students are coming from other countries. They've never experienced the cold weather before. So it just started from there, where I reached out at first to New York Cares, and they were wonderful, supplying us with coats, and they've been continuing to do that, their coat drive on a regular basis. This has been probably about 10 or 15 years.
Could you talk about more how the library plays a role within your community as well?
Well, the library is everywhere in our community. It's not, this is the library over there and it's under these four walls and that's it. First of all, I created, 2 libraries in the school that never had a library before, but mostly the library reaches out to all the families, okay? I've gone into shelters and set up libraries in the shelters. Many families have been provided libraries in their homes. I work directly with the parents. Our families are the key to our libraries.
I'm wondering if you could also talk a bit about what the donation program looks like at this time of year.
Today, they dropped off inside. So they're dropping off, a car filled with all kinds of donations. Today we got books, socks, and other things, but it could be anything that our kids need. I'm continuously having events. We're having one, it's called the Library Celebration. Mm-hmm. It is related to, it's got a winter wonderland theme. And like, oh my God, it's crazy. The kids, so they brought up some of the donations today.
I was going to say, how did the kids react to the drop off?
They got their noses stuck in the screen. Okay, so the library, it's got 2 windows. They literally, on their tiptoes, they got their noses in the library window. I can't, because they got their mask here, and they're squinting and just their eyes are popping because they can see all the things. So now I have to figure out how to hide this stuff. So because everyone gets something for the holidays is my point.
Wow, Rosanna, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
The Bronx Zoo's annual holiday lights have brightened up the city again. The seasonal celebration is a reminder that Christmas is just around the corner. Jaden Edison has more from the light show.
As the kids say nowadays, the Bronx is lit. When families exit their cars, they can hear festive tunes blasting through speakers. Upon entry, it's a holiday wonderland. Are you having fun out here?
Yeah.
What's that?
A Christmas tree.
As my 5-year-old friend Gabby hinted at, trees are brought to life with colorful lights. Train horns prance through the zoo. Even the sea lions have gingerly conversations. Gabby's grandma, Mary Brown, said she couldn't resist coming to spend time with her granddaughter.
She kept asking me, when we're going to see the lights. So I said, we're going tonight and see the light.
Aside from the sea lions, there are no real animals visible at this event. That's because the show's start time is after regular zoo operations, and they need to sleep. The lights are the main attraction. There are nearly 300 animal lanterns representing species from across the planet. Stilt walkers occupy the zoo with bright smiles and, of course, long legs. People gravitate toward an area that resembles a historic downtown square. First-time attendee Sylvia Bautista says she's impressed by the creativity.
This is a great way to start it with the lights, it's bringing the kids out, and it's just starting the holidays. It's a great idea.
Guantong Sun and Jessica Kin brought their 4-year-old son Liam to see the lights. Have you been naughty or nice this year?
I have been nice this year.
His mom, Kin, says the experience here is enchanting.
Especially walking along the path with all the lights, it's like walking into a very magical world.
New York City was once the U.S. epicenter of COVID. That caused the Wildlife Conservation Society to close the Bronx Zoo in early 2020, and the zoo reopened at limited capacity the following summer. The holiday lights took place last year when vaccines were not widely available. Some people spent the holidays inside their homes. Now, staff and visitors say this year's event feels like a step in the right direction.
Last year we had a great event. We're back this year bigger and better than ever.
That's Bronx Zoo Director Jim Breheny. He says the staff hopes the lanterns make attendees feel closer to animals and nature. But it all means something deeper for folks like Deborah Blunt.
I'm very grateful that God has carried us through, kept the family together, and gave us the opportunity to come to this wonderful light show with our grandchild.
Her grandchild is the joyful Breon, who is currently in first grade.
I always so excited when I see the holidays.
Their family is happy to be celebrating this time of year because there are people who are not able to do so. Blunt says this holiday season is about family and love.
They're keeping the spirit of Christmas and the holidays alive, so I really appreciate the Bronx Zoo doing this.
The Bronx Zoo's Holiday Lights event runs at limited capacity on select dates through January 9th. Tickets must be reserved in advance. Jaden Edison, Columbia Radio News.
Well, that does it for this edition of Uptown Radio. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Our executive producer was Jaden Edison. Leading our staff of reporters was senior producer Lucy Grindon.
Director Sarah Thomas Oxtoby coordinated our studio production with Anna Hitakana and Sadvi Sankara.
Chantel Vaca produced the news along with Elliot Schiaparelli and Leanna Norman. Senior editor Ted Clifford and assistant editor Jackson Ellison led our copy team. He also got to stream live to the web. Our music was courtesy of Blue Dot Sessions.
Our instructors were Naomi Starobin and Oluwakemi Aladesuyi. Sally Herships advised our staff. I'm Louise Vallée.
And I'm Rebecca Robinson. Until next time, you can always find us on uptownradio.org. From all of us here at Uptown Radio, happy holidays and thanks for listening.